Hello, this is Awaken to Truth podcast, and I am your host, Michael Smith. Good to be coming to you today. This is going to be a short and a concise episode, but it is just something that I wanted to get out there because I believe some dots are beginning to connect in some areas, and so I'm going to connect this to one of the episodes that I had about 2 months ago about seasons of judgment and things being exposed. I believe that we have this week seen a very significant development in that prophetic word that the Lord had given to me. And so I wanted to help connect that to you so that you will see it as well. And so we're going to get into that here in just a moment. But if you would, please subscribe to the podcast on whatever platform you may be listening from. And if you would give it a 5-star review, that would be fantastic. If you would go ahead and write a review, that would be even better. I know you can write reviews in Apple. I'm really not sure if you can write reviews on Spotify and Google Podcasts and Stitcher and some of these others, but those of you that have taken the time to write reviews in Apple, I really appreciate it. Thank you very much. That is one of the most significant ways that you can help this podcast is to write that review. So please, if you would do that, as I have said before, I'm not giving Facebook any more money. I'm not advertising on Facebook anymore. I am seeing somewhat of an impact from that in the sense of a slightly, not much, but a little minor negative impact from not, having it out there on Facebook as much as it was. So help me by just writing a review for me. That's all I need you to do. But I want to go ahead and get into the episode today. If you remember, you may or may not remember, depending on how long you have been listening. Maybe this is the first episode you're listening to, but anyway, back episode number 37 in December, I did an episode called Judgment Starts in the House of God, and I shared a prophetic word that the Lord had given me over probably about 3 years ago now, and how that I believed that word was going to begin to come to pass. Now, I said in there, I don't know how it's going to come to pass. I don't know exactly what it's going to look like because we see in part. But when I see something and the Lord has showed it to me, then I know, when he's speaking to me and when he has shown me something. And so we've got a whole slew of YouTube, quote unquote, prophets out there that, whatever it is that they have said that they have seen, it ended up not happening. And so many of these people set dates on things, and those dates came and went, and it didn't happen. And so many people will say, well, how do you tell a false prophet from a true prophet? Well, if somebody sets a date on something and it doesn't come to pass, then they certainly, I won't even go so far as to call them a false prophet right off the bat, but they certainly were misguided in that prophecy. It was a false prophecy. And so we had many of those taking place in, across YouTube for various things, mostly surrounding the election. But, and I'm not saying I'm a prophet, but what I'm saying is when God does give me something prophetic, I know it's from the Lord. And so that's why I had the confidence to share this back in December. And so I'm going to play a little clip from that episode, and it's going to lead me into what we're going to talk about here over these next few minutes. This is going to be a shorter episode than usual. It's going to be very to the point, but I just wanted to connect this dot because it's something that connected in my spirit today. So hopefully it'll be something that makes sense to you as well. But I'm just going to play this small little clip from that episode back in December. Here it is. Or there. I can say this. I believe that his judgment is coming upon the systems of this nation. His judgment is coming upon many of the forms of information and entertainment in this nation, and there's going to be exposure. The church exposure kind of is flying under the radar. People aren't even thinking about that. The political and this other exposure is not going to be able to fly under the radar as much, but it will not be as out and as open as maybe you think it should be for the things that are going to begin to become uncovered. Okay, so that was actually just kind of some insight that the Lord had given me right as I was giving that particular episode. I was sharing about a very strong prophetic word that God had given me. Maybe it was 2017 or 2018. I don't remember which, but I shared the contents of that. And then as I was sharing it, the Lord just kind of moved on me and kind of opened up and revealed to me a little bit further what I had just shared in that clip. That yes, there's going to be exposure on the systems of this nation. Yes, there's going to be exposure and judgment in the church. Yes, there's going to be exposure and judgment in political realms. Yes, there's going to be exposure and judgment in entertainment and these various things. But it's not going to be maybe as out and obvious as we might think it would be or as we might be looking for it to be. So it's going to take those that have an eye to see and an ear to hear to begin to connect the dots and see the things becoming uncovered. Well, this week we had exposure on some of the systems of this nation, financial systems, like I have never seen before. And when I say that, it involved Wall Street. And maybe you have heard about this, maybe you haven't. But there is a scandal right now going on with Wall Street, particularly one stock, GameStop. There's a few other stocks that are involved as well, but GameStop is the kind of where everything is centered around. And what happened is there was a major hedge fund, multi-billion-dollar hedge fund. I believe it's over $13 billion that this hedge fund is worth. And so they begin to sell GameStop short. And if you're not familiar with stock terminology, we're not going to get too detailed into what that means. But in essence, when you sell a stock short, you are betting that that stock is going to go down in value. If it goes down in value, you get to make money. So in other words, if you've bought, just real simply so that you have if you don't know what this is, many of you might know exactly what it is, but if you don't, very simply, if you bought a stock for $20 and you're betting that it's going to go down, what you do is you basically borrow that share from your broker. So you borrow one share of $20. Then you immediately sell that share. So now you've got $20 in your hand. It's not yours. You used leverage and you borrowed it from your broker. So you've got $20 in your hand. The issue is you have to cover that position at some point. You have to pay your broker back. He's not going to float you the money forever. So if that stock drops to $15, now you take the $20 that's in your hand and you buy that share back. And then you give it back to your broker. Okay? And you see, you get to keep the difference between the $20 original position and the $15 position that you actually bought it for. So you get to keep that $5. I'll say that doesn't seem like much, but if you did that over, 5,000 shares or 10,000 shares, as you can see, it can add up pretty quick. And so big hedge fund companies do this all the time. And what they do is, in essence, this is the scammery of Wall Street. And it's why it is very difficult for the small guy who's investing or small lady who's investing 5,000, 10,000, 20,000, 30,000, whatever, investing small sums of money, comparatively speaking to what these big institutional hedge funds can invest. It's very difficult for the small person to be able to truly make headway because there's all of these things taking place behind the scenes that you just don't know about. And so when these companies start shorting stuff, if they guess right, they can begin to take a stock down very, very quickly. And typically, when I say guess, they're not just, they're not always just purely guessing. They usually have some information that would lead them to believe there's a pretty good chance the stock is going to go down. But once they begin to sell it short, it goes down far quicker than it would just naturally. And so that's what they were doing with GameStop. I keep getting that word. It's not game stock. It's GameStop stock. And so that's what they were doing with GameStop. And, if they would have been successful, it would have probably burned the stock all the way down to very low, because it was just about a year ago, this stock was only a couple dollars a share, $2 and some change or something like that. And so anyhow, they begin to do this massive short move on GameStop. Well, there began to be some online forums. One of them was in Reddit. Another one was some type of Wall Street forum. And these forums got together and they began to band together, just, regular people by and large, But a lot of them, many thousands of them begin to band together and they got the information that this hedge fund company was shorting GameStop. And they said, let's put an end to this. Because what happens when these hedge fund companies do this is if you, Joe or Sally Main Street, has $10,000 invested in this particular company, these games that these hedge fund companies can play, they can take your $10,000 and essentially, now I know it's legal, and so I'm not, essentially they steal your money. That's what they do. Because they burn the stock down, they make money all the way down, and your $10,000 is now worth $2,500 or $3,000. You've lost 70%, and they have exponentially increased their earnings, and they've increased their value by playing these games. And so these forums got together and said, let's put an end to this. Let's buy as much GameStop as possible. And so what they did is they began to pour their money into GameStop. What happened to GameStop? It began to go up in value. Well, what happens when you have a short position and you don't get it right? Instead of the stock going down, the stock goes up. Okay? It's the exact opposite of the scenario I explained a few minutes ago. Instead of exponentially making money, you exponentially lose money because you owe the stock back. You still owe the stock that you borrowed back, but you bought it for $20, and let's say it doubles in value. Now you have to buy it back at $40 to cover your position, and so for every share that you shorted, you're now losing $20 a share. So if you shorted 10,000 shares, you're now down 200 grand. You just lost 200,000. Well, do that times millions upon millions of shares the way that these hedge fund companies do, and you can see that this could be quite a problem for the hedge fund company because GameStop didn't just go double. It didn't just go triple. It went way up. It hit almost $500 a share, and it was down around, I don't know what it was, $15, $20 a share. It wasn't, maybe it might have been $30 or $40 a share, but whatever it was, it exponentially went up in value. And so this hedge fund company had to cover all of these shares. So in short, plain language, what that means is the regular common Joe and common Sally from Main Street bankrupted this big hedge fund company from Wall Street because they beat them at their own game and they exposed the game that Wall Street has played for years of stealing your money. Okay, well, if that wasn't good enough, there's another development in this story. There is an online broker that goes by the name of Robinhood. Okay? Now, we all know that Robinhood is known for what? Stealing from the rich to give to the poor. Even though that's not really what Robinhood did. That's what we often say, Robinhood stole from the rich and gave to the poor. What Robinhood actually did is he stole from the government and gave the people's tax money back to the people. So, there's a little bit of a skewed idea around, but anyhow, Robinhood had built their brand around that idea that we're helping the little guy. We're helping the little guy get his or her fair share of the pot. Well, what did Robinhood do when their buddies in Wall Street begin to lose their pants because the little guy beat them at their own game? They begin to cut off the ability of their customers to buy GameStop. Why would they do that? Because the more people that bought GameStop, the higher the stock price was going to go. And the higher the stock price went, the more money this hedge fund company would lose. And this hedge fund company was losing money hand over fist, and they were approaching the point that they couldn't even cover all of their losses. So what does Robinhood do? Robinhood steps in and puts a stop to it. No, Main Street Joe and Main Street Sally, you can't buy any more GameStop because I don't want Wall Street. I don't want Mr. Hedge Fund on Wall Street to go bankrupt. This isn't fair. This isn't fair. The market is volatile, and we've got to step in and put an end to it. Really? Do they step in and put an end to the big institutional investors as they're shorting things all the way down on a regular basis, all the time, every year, and as Main Street Joe and Sally are losing money in the stock market? Do they put an end to that volatility? No, they don't. They played their hand. They showed that the system is rigged against us. Now, what did a certain guy, I can't think of his name. He ran for president. He won. Nobody thought he was going to. Oh, Donald Trump. That's right. What did Donald Trump run on in 2016? What began to resonate with people so much? Because he would say, the system's rigged. The system's rigged against you. Okay? A lot of times people didn't even understand why the system is rigged against us. But here is an unveiling and an exposing of that system that is rigged and is unjust and is not fair and has caused many good people a lot of money, and it has been taken and given to the very, very rich and the very, very wealthy, and nobody is standing up for the little guy. But yet, when the little guy, in a miraculous David versus Goliath type of move, is able to stick it to the big guy, what does Robinhood do? This brokerage company, they step in and protect Wall Street. They expose who they're really working for. They expose the game, that they're there not to make you money, not to make me money. They're there to make Wall Street money, and they're there to use our money to do it. They're just the intermediaries that are able to get the money from our pockets into these big hedge funds and into these big investment banks' pockets. And so I know that this is a lot to process, but look into this story. Look into it. Robinhood and GameStop. It is a unveiling of the corruptness of our financial systems like I have never seen before. And even the mainstream media, CNN and so many, even they are having to report about it, about the corruptness of it. Now, here's the thing. Is the Biden administration going to step in on behalf of the little guy? He claims to be Main Street Joe. He claims to be average Joe. Is he going to step in and help? Is he going to do something about the fact that Robinhood decided they were going to rig the game against the little guy to protect the big guy? Is he going to? I don't know. We'll see. We could begin to see not just financial systems begin to expose themselves. We could begin to see some of the political arena begin to expose who they are really behind. Now, maybe Joe will do the right thing. We'll see. If he does, I'll give him credit. But let's watch and see, because one of the big systems of this country, Wall Street, the financial system, it has taken a big step into showing what it actually is, showing what actually takes place, and showing the fact that so many Americans have put their confidence in Wall Street. And now, you know what? Maybe we might begin to think twice about just turning our money over. We might begin to think twice about what's actually going on, and we might sit back and watch all of this unfold. Now, I don't know what's going to happen. I don't know how it's going to unfold. It's my opinion that what was done is illegal. So let's see what happens. But I just wanted you to have this information and just bring this to your attention that we're beginning to see it happen. And it's so encouraging to me because, there was times over this past 4, 5, 6, 8, 10 weeks that I begin to wonder, does justice exist anymore? Or do the scales just get to, does the big players just get to put their hand on the scale whenever they want to, and nothing ever happens? But this, in just truly a miraculous turn, it has exposed that big player. And the little guy was able to put his hand on the scale. And the big guy got to see what it feels like. And they begin to cry and whine. And some of their intermediaries stepped in and said, no. Enough is enough. Robinhood. Remember some episodes back, I said, remember the inverse, that many of these companies, they are the inverse of what they say. Google, don't be evil. Probably because they're evil. That's actually what we can interpret from their company statement. Washington Post, democracy dies in darkness. Well, probably more accurately would be the Washington Post keeps us in the dark so that democracy can die and we don't know it. Robinhood, stealing from the rich and giving to the poor. What have they exposed themselves as? Those that steal from the poor so that they can help the rich. It's starting to happen. Justice is starting to be exposed. I give the Lord praise for this. I give him glory for this because it's only his mighty hand that can begin to expose things. Because let me tell you something, his heart is for the oppressed and for the downtrodden. His heart is never for the oppressor. So I just pray right now in the name of Jesus that his hand continues to stretch towards those who are oppressed, that his hand begins to stretch against oppressive systems that have done nothing but corrupt and steal and distort and put their hand on the scale in an unjust manner. And I just pray in the name of Jesus that his justice and his peace would continue to move forward and that his people's eyes would be opened and that we would see where our help comes from, that there's only one place that it comes from, and that is from the Lord. I give him praise and I give him glory today, and I just wanted to take these few minutes to share this with you. God bless you, and I will be back soon.